CEOs of large corporations almost never take responsibility for their company's destructive practices. Here are 3 of the best paid CEOs in the world explaining the criteria they use to lead their corporations. Note the absence of any mention of the environment, social progress, or support for local communities.
Well, here we finally come to the heart of the debate. If we keep our prices low and raise our average wage substantially, we would in fact decrease our profitability disproportionately, and we would sacrifice a healthy chunk of what it is that our shareholders expect from us.
You know, we've aspired throughout our history to be both a great and a good company. I wouldn't say that it's been, written necessarily that way, but over our history, our approach has been to be a great company from a standpoint of great for investors, a good investment, growing our revenue and earnings, and that's very important. This is not the Jeff Immelt company. This is the GE company. We've got 5 million shareholders. We're the widest health security in the world, and I work for those people. I'm a big shareholder myself, but I don't own majority stake of GE. Okay, it is very widely held, and that's who my responsibility is to.
We have no obligation to make history. We have no obligation to make art. We have no obligation to make a statement. To make money is our only objective.
This next clip may shock you. You know how the GOP has threatened to privatize your Social Security account and turn it over to Wall Street investors? Well, here's a good reason to fight that plan. This Wall Street commodities trader personifies the dark side of corporate psychology. If the bottom line is everything, then even terrorism becomes a money-making proposition.
When the September 11th situation happened, I didn't know that, and I must say, and I want to say this because I want to take it lightly. It's not a light situation. It's a devastating act. It was really a bad thing. It was one of the worst things I've seen in my lifetime, But I will tell you, and every trader will tell you, who was not in that building, and who was buying gold and who owned gold and silver, that when it happened, the first thing you thought about was, well, how much is gold up? The first thing that came to mind was, my God, gold must be exploding. Fortunately for us, all our clients were in gold. So when it went up, they all doubled their money. Everybody doubled their money. It was a blessing in disguise. Devastating, crushing, heart-shattering, but on a financial sense, for my clients that were in the market, they all made money. Now, I wasn't looking for this type of help. But it happened. When the U.S. bombed Iraq, back in 1991, the price of oil went from $13 to $40 a barrel, for Christ's sake. Now, we couldn't wait for the bomb to start raining down on Saddam Hussein.
The good news is that organized workers have proven in recent years that corporate power can be challenged and defeated.
2 of the most famous examples in recent years are described in Global Village or Global Pillage. It's another good reason to support organized labor.
Workers in different countries are beginning to develop new ways to support each other across national borders. When the Japanese-owned Bridgestone Firestone Company demanded 12-hour shifts and a 30% wage cut for new workers in its American factories, workers struck. Bridgestone Firestone fired them all and replaced them with 2,300 strikebreakers. American workers appealed to Bridgestone Firestone workers around the world for help.
If there's ever a fight that we were determined to win, this is the fight.
And they got it. In Brazil, Bridgestone workers staged 1-hour work stoppages, then worked like turtles, the Brazilian phrase for a slowdown. In Japan, 500 Japanese unionists marched through the streets of Tokyo, supporting Bridgestone Firestone workers from the U.S. In the wake of the worldwide campaign, Bridgestone Firestone unexpectedly agreed to rehire its locked-out American workers. Human rights groups and unions in the United States pressured the Gap to improve conditions in its factories in Central America.
Local garment workers charged through the Schuylkill Mall fighting foreign imports. Today's target, the Gap clothing store. These textile workers don't want imports banned. They would like the U.S. government and retailers to force factories overseas to improve slave wages and conditions. That's why they've brought Judith and Claudia to the United States. Both teens work in 14-hour day, split shifts, 7 days a week in Central American clothing mills.
Judith makes 56 cents an hour. For an 8-hour day, that's $4.50 a day. So a company like the Gap pays the 40 workers who produce these 1,100 shirts. They pay them collectively $180 in wages and take out $22,000 worth of T-shirts.
The Gap finally agreed to open the factory to regular inspection by local religious and human rights groups.
But corporate reform can also occur on the road to Damascus. I'm speaking metaphorically, of course, of Paul, the apostle's conversion to Christianity. These aha moments don't happen often. But here's one to give us all hope. Once more, a clip from the corporation.
For 21 years, I never gave a thought to what we were taking from the earth or doing to the earth in the making of our products. And then in the summer of 1994, we began to hear questions from our customers we'd never heard before. What's your company doing for the environment? And we didn't have answers. The real answer was not very much. And it really disturbed many of our people, not me so much as them. And a group in our research department decided to convene a task force and bring people from our businesses around the world to come together to assess our company's worldwide environmental position, to begin to frame answers for those customers. They asked me if I would come and speak to that group and give them a kickoff speech to launch this new task force with an environmental vision. And I didn't have an environmental vision. I did not want to make that speech. And at sort of the propitious moment, this book landed on my desk. It was Paul Hawkins' book, The Ecology of Commerce. And I began to read The Ecology of Commerce, really desperate for inspiration. And very quickly into that book, I found the phrase, the death of birth. It was E.O. Wilson's expression for species extinction, the death of birth, and it was a point of a spear into my chest. And I read on, and the spear went deeper, and it became an epiphanal experience, a total change of mindset for myself, and a change of paradigm.
Unfortunately, most CEOs are more concerned about their stock holdings than saving the planet. Here's the head of General Electric responding to a question about his company's half-hearted efforts to recycle plastics.
I've been around our plastics business for 20 years. We were talking about recycling 20 years ago. And we've evolved only so far, only in a minuscule range, because, again, we have to attack the economics of the system. At the same time, we attack the ideas of what is possible.
Perhaps the best chance of reining in corporations is a new movement to assert legislative control over them on the state and local level. According to ReclaimDemocracy.org, Nebraska, South Dakota, and several other largely conservative Midwestern states have passed laws forbidding corporate ownership of farms. At least 11 townships in Pennsylvania have done the same. In the state of Maine, citizens have organized to bring statewide challenges to corporate charters. New bills have just been presented to the Maine legislature with bipartisan support. They seek to hold corporations accountable at the state level. Here's testimony before Maine legislators by Robert Monks, a lifelong Republican who has seen the danger posed by unrestrained corporate greed.
Corporations ought to work for you, not the other way around. And you're not going to get that if you let them dominate the rulemaking process.
Jeff Milchin points out that the movement to reform corporations will take time, but like efforts to end slavery, the end result will be worth the struggle.